Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. We're just talking here so much about food shortages, and I know, if you're like me, I just went to the store today, and there's still so much food there that people in the developing world just can't even imagine. Now, you and I are seeing prices going up. There's just a report out from the grocery stores, retail stores in Germany, and they're saying that in the next few weeks, grocery stores and retail in Germany is going to be raising food prices by 20 to 50%. Now, again, if you're like me, food prices going up are bad. We don't like that. But when it really comes down to it, what percentage of our disposable income is actually used for food? After rent or mortgage, what percentage of our money is actually spent on food? In the United States, it's usually around 2 to 5% of our actual budget is spent on food. But where that really hits home is what about in the developing world, where sometimes, in some places, 50% of their budget is food. What happens when their bill goes up 20 to 50%? This is what we're seeing in Sri Lanka right now. The government there is resigning because they have been demanded to be out because the food is non-existent in Sri Lanka. The fuel is non-existent in Sri Lanka. People can't afford it. And so the people that are purchasing it just aren't purchasing it. We have some serious problems, and we're going to see this rippling around the globe as these prices hit home hard. As I've said before, the prices will keep going up until the demand for food and for those products decreases. Have you stopped eating quite so much? Have you purchased less food? I think a lot of Americans are going to just purchase cheaper food, and we're seeing that hitting the generic brands pretty hard. Substitution's happening. But Americans aren't going hungry. I don't know how many years it's been since someone who has had intact mental health in the United States has actually starved to death. But I think that may, apart from extenuating or very odd circumstances, someone who wants to eat in the United States generally can find food. That's not true in a lot of places in the world. A lot of places in the world, they have to scrape and save, and they have to work their tails off in order to just put food on the table. With these price increases happening, you will see more and more governments around the world being destabilized. And that is the simple, honest truth. Last time food prices went up like this, we had the Arab Spring. We had the color revolutions. We saw nation after nation after nation fall their governments, or revolutions starting, civil wars starting. And prices now are higher for food than they were back then. And they're continuing to go up. The shortages are really starting to really kick in. And as we've seen the second wave starting to form, fertilizers are not getting to the farmers. Some of those farmers can make do for a couple years. They have enough in the soil that they can kind of grow anyway, or they can make choices about what they're actually growing. A lot of farmers have already locked in the contracts for fertilizer. Fertilizer is already in place at warehouses across the United States, but there's no new fertilizer coming in to those warehouses. That may hit home really hard later in the year or next year when planting happens. That's going to be where we're going to see this second wave really hit, as those harvests are significantly impacted. We have a water crisis in the United States. Western United States is in drought mode. And you know where else that's happening? Brazil. We're seeing weather patterns. We're seeing freezes in Europe. Mark my words, weather and the climate is changing. Now, there's definitely discussion out there. There's definitely discussion of what's happening, why it's happening. But one thing we can say with pretty certitude is that the climate is changing. We're seeing the jet stream that affects where the temperatures and the clouds and such like that go, where rain falls. We're seeing places that are not supposed to have this much rain usually are getting a lot of rain and getting flooded. Heavy flooding in some countries. And then in other places where they're used to getting a lot of rain are not getting that rain. It is catastrophic, and there's only so much we can say that there is just coincidence or just random facts. All right, the simple fact is that we are seeing a climate shift. Now, there's some people on this side of the spectrum that are saying that temperatures are, and then there's people over here who are saying temperatures are actually going. I'm kind of more in that camp. Things are happening with the sun. Things are happening with the sun. Big cycles are happening. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, minimums are happening. Google it and you'll find out. If you want to look at other folks, folks like Ice Age Farmer, talking a lot about this. Adapt 2030. Other folks talking a lot more about that topic. Like with anything, look at the facts. Look at the facts and decide for yourself. But what we are seeing is we're seeing crops coming in at historic levels, and not good, historically bad. Why is that? Things are changing in the world. People got really used to rain always landing in the same place. Frost dates happening at the same time each year. Things are changing, and people's models of when they put stuff in the ground is not changing. People's models of how much rainfall they should expect on an average year, those models aren't changing. All the science that is being wrapped up in agriculture, they are starting to get stumped more and more, and they need to adapt. That's for sure. But you and I need to adapt as well. We need to realize that this food is not being produced as it once was. We have the bird flu going around in the United States and other countries. And now millions and millions and millions of birds are being culled. It is looking like it is going to be the worst bird flu outbreak in history. Now, we still have a ways to go, but at the present rate of cullings, euthanizing birds, we're on track to have a worse outbreak this time, at least from the amount of birds that are going to end up dead. There's some serious issues at stake there. Things like the PCR tests being used. Those things give a lot of false positives. And I know some people have said, well, these farmers and such like that, and these producers are not going to just take false positives without challenging them. And the answer is actually they will. Because a lot of those farmers, a lot of the producers are trying to make money. And the simple fact is when their flock tests positive, the government pays the money. Insurance companies, I believe, may even chip in money as well. Those producers get paid to slaughter their flocks and not allow that chicken to go to market. Destroy the eggs and make sure that they don't go to market. Friends, Friends, we're printing money like nobody's business, but we ain't printing food anymore. We're not printing gas and oil out of the ground like we once were. I'm talking about this globally. There's a lot less supply of goods, but there's a whole lot more paper money. What does that mean? It means the price per item is going to go way up, until you and other people stop buying. Friends, there's a lot of pain coming our way. We talk about shortages here because that's something tangible that we can talk about. But prices are a little harder to get your hand on, to really make it understandable, unless you can aggregate all the data. But there's really no differences between shortages and price increases. Price increases basically are just the natural way for the market to keep shortages from happening. When you have less product, you need less buyers. How do you get less buyers? You need to jack that price up. That's how the system works. And when the government steps in and starts putting price controls in, which, mark my words, is coming, and is coming rapidly, when that happens, the shortages will take off because there's too many buyers and not enough stuff. Friends, we've been warning about this for years. Don't get complacent. These things are working their way through the system. I know. Sometimes it can be like, how is this still operating? There's a lot of reserves in the system. There's pools of sugar, there's pools of wheat, there's pools of flour in the system. But when it stops, when the music stops, there's going to be far, far, far fewer chairs than what people are used to. And if you're not already set, you're probably not going to be one of those people ending up with a chair. All right, folks, continue to take things seriously. For those of you concerned, this is my indoor studio. It's warmer in here, and sometimes I shoot in here, but most of my updates and such like that will still be out in the stinky garage because my chickens are making it stinky even from upstairs. But all right, I will continue to see you guys later, and God bless you, and keep stacking to the rafters, all right? Keep it up.